All right, you guys, this is literally my favorite lesson on percents because I I found a really easy way to do it all the time. Okay, but before we do, just understand what a percent is. Okay, a percent is it's really just I need a different color. It's really just a ratio out of 100. A ratio comparing to 100. Right. So if I said a couple examples, if I said 75%, that is 75 out of 100. Okay. If I said, if I said, let's see, if I said 0.3%, that would be zero point 0.3 out of 100, which we would move the decimal point over once, right? And then that would be that would be 3 over 1,000. Or what if we said 120%? That would be 120 over 100. All right. So percents are just ratios that compares one quantity to 100 all the stinking time. All the stinking time. There are. I'm gonna in a second. I'm gonna take a picture. There are some percents that you want to know all the time. Okay, just all the time. Some basic ones, and some tricks that go along with that. For yeah, and I'll take a picture of that and post that in here. But otherwise, solving percents are really not so bad. Okay. Um, if they ever tell you to find, they ever tell you to, this will be our example one, find 50% of 20. Okay, find 50% of 20. First of all, I want you to know to use the equation method. The equation method. And all that means is you're gonna translate everything into an equation. So we're gonna say, first of all, 50%, percentages always change to decimals. All right. Change, actually I'm just gonna say move decimal. Move the decimal left 2. Move the decimal left 2 places every single time. So if we're talking 50%, then we're gonna use 0.5 instead. Okay. Now of just simply means multiply. Of means times, right? Just means to multiply. Right? So we're going to use the multiplication symbol. Right? And then the number 20, I'm sure you can guess, is just going to be the number 20. Right? So if you were to, so what the find is the thing you're trying to find, that'll be your x. So x equals 0.5 times 20, and so x is just going to equal 10. And so yeah, 50% of 20 is 10, and that makes good sense. Let's do another example. So in this example, they're saying what percent of 60 is 15. So understand when you're doing percents, they're talking about in a proportional relationship. They're talking about the percent, all right? And so the percent is always based out of 100. And so then this number is the other part of the percent. That's what we don't know. Okay, we'll call that the percent right up here. And then the other side, this is your partial value, and this is your total over here at the bottom. Okay, so when it says what percent of 60 is 15, well, this is obviously the percent that we're looking for, and of 60 is 15. Well, we know that what if we're saying what percent of 60, that means that 60 is our total, and apparently 15 is just part of that total. All right. So, but we'll still use our same method. We'll still go ahead and translate this. So what percent, that means I don't know what we're talking about. So we're going to call that W. All right. And of means, once again, to multiply, right? 60 is just a number. is, here's a new term, is means equals, and then 15. And I love teaching this because this is not, you can use this not just for finding percents, you can do this for story problems for like the rest of your life, for word problems, okay? And so now I'll simplify this down just a little bit. So we've got W times 60 equals 15. So how do you get W by itself? Well, you'll divide by 60 on both sides, of course. And so now you're going to end up with W equals, well, let's see, 15 over 60. They're both divisible by 15. So that's going to be 1 and that's going to be 4. So 0.25 says 1/4 is the same as 0.25. And we want 0.25 because they asked us what percent. And so whenever they ask you what percent, you need to remember to change your final answer to a percent by moving the decimal to the right 2 places. All right. Or by multiplying by 100, either way. Okay. So multiplying by 100, we'll move this sucker to the right 2 places. And so the percent for what percent of 60 is 15? 15 is 25% of 60, right? And then we would be done with that. And finally, one more example is you don't have to do the equation method, example 2. You can instead make ratios, you can make proportions. All right, so this will be the proportion method. I prefer the equation method, but hey, the proportion method, I love it. I love it almost just as much because proportions are so easy. Proportion method. So if they, for example, said, and we're going to need this portion up here again. Copy this, and I'm going to paste it right over here because we're going to need this. We're going to need this again. Let's say they tell us. 440 is what percent of what they use? 400. 400. Now here's a clue. All right. Whenever you see the of a number, all right, we see of a number, that's the total that they're talking about. Just using that phrase of 60, of 440, of 400, of this, of that. That's the total. Okay, that's your total. So in this case, we're going to say that of 400 is our total, and 440 then must be the part, and obviously the percent is, yeah, you guessed it, the percent. Okay, and so let's go ahead and put it in this form, this proportion that we have over here. So we'll just use a little substitution. Oh goodness, that was terrible. I want black anyway. All right. This equals this. So the percent, well, since it said what percent, we don't know what that is. So we're just going to put an X up here, or W, really doesn't matter. On the bottom is always 100. That will never change. Now remember, our answer here is a percent. The partial, well, fractions are percentages, right? So the partial over here is 440, and you might be thinking that's kind of weird. 440 is bigger than the 400. But if any of you have ever gotten any extra credit on a test or something like that, and you ever got like, oh, dude, I got 110% on this thing, I got 105%, that's because the part was bigger than the total for once, and that is possible. It is possible for that to happen. So the part is 440, and the total is 400. 400. All right. Now you can absolutely cross multiply and divide this thing. Okay. You can also simplify this fraction before you cross multiply and divide. Whatever you do, by the time you're done, you're going to find that W equals 110. 110. Now you don't actually, whenever you do the whenever you do the fraction method, you don't need to move the decimal point. Okay, so I'm gonna write that for you because I don't want you to forget that. Don't move decimal. Move the decimal when using the fraction or the proportional method. Okay, as long as you remember that, you shouldn't get that confused. So the assignments you guys have will be a bunch of those kinds of examples, and we'll see how that goes for you guys. All right. See you later on. We'll see you guys in like 2 seconds. You're coming in.